Welcome everyone to our latest Next Practices Weekly from I4CP, the Institute for Corporate Productivity. Thanks to everyone who's already been introducing yourselves over in the chat. Please continue to do so if you've just joined in, maybe rolling off a previous meeting. Great to have you with us. Please let us know what organization you're with, where you're joining from today. I'm sitting here in sunny Rochester, New York and Western New York. Great to be with you. If this is the first time joining the I4CP Next Practices Weekly Call, know that we are the Institute for Corporate Productivity. We discover the people practices that drive high performance in your organizations. We define high performance by 4 metrics: revenue growth, market share, profitability, and customer satisfaction. We do this in our quantitative studies when we look at topics from total rewards, diversity, equity, and inclusion, learning and development, total talent acquisition, whatever the topic may be. We look at what the high-performing companies are doing differently than low performers according to these 4 criteria. And that allows us to tease out the sort of best and what we like to call next practices, those practices that few companies are doing, but that truly correlate to higher performance. We are a member-based organization, so a special welcome to anyone on the call today from one of our member companies. You see here just a small sampling of our member organizations. They range from the very large companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Accenture, United Healthcare, and others. You also see that they span across all different market verticals, industry types. We've got large national and indeed global organizations, some based outside the US, of course, as well. We also have some smaller companies, those that are maybe only 1,000 or 2,000 employees. We have some that are unicorns, that are startup, and we've got a growing number of those. And of course, they have special high growth HR needs. So again, special welcome to anyone on the call who's with a member organization. My name is Tom Stone. I'm a senior research analyst here at I4CP, and most weeks I'm your friendly host of this Next Practices Weekly series. I'm going to introduce our special guest today in just a moment, but we have a few other quick announcements. One, this is a weekly call series. We meet every Thursday at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, if I got those right. You'll see the dates coming up next week. I'll be joined by my colleague, Catherine Brecken, where we'll once again be looking at our latest research on culture, focusing in on the 7 habits of healthy cultures. And then you see a couple of great guests we have coming up on August 31st and September 7th from Delaware North and GE Appliances. We don't do this often, but we do want to toot our own horn this week. We just learned that we, for the 7th year in a row, have made the Inc. magazine 5,000 list. This is a list of the nation's fastest growing companies. We made it for the 7th year in a row, so we're very proud of that. And it's really a testament to all of our member organizations, because one of the main criteria for our growth is the growth of our member community. We've managed to double that, double the number of enterprise members in recent years, and we're excited about that. We provide, as I said, very practical research to all of our member companies and to the broader HR public through venues like this call series. If you'd like to learn more, Zeta will put the press release on that in the chat, and of course, information about how to join membership for those that aren't already in membership. A couple of other quick announcements. We've shared recently on one of these calls some of the key findings from our latest study that we dubbed the productivity predicament. This looked at how companies had pivoted over the past 3 years to an emphasis more on empathy, well-being, and aspects of the employee value prop like that, but are now relooking at productivity, their performance management systems, accountability for results, and finding a sort of balance, a sort of middle ground between these 2 important aspects of our work lives. The full report is available to members, but we do have a shorter brief that includes the key findings that's available. Again, Zeta will put the link for non-members to download that over in the chat. And if you missed the sessions where a couple of my colleagues walked through the key findings, those are available, as are all episodes of Next Practices Weekly, up in our recording archive, if you will. Each one of these weekly episodes, we put up notes, we put the download of the slides, and the full recording is available. So if you're relatively new to this call series, check out the archive, because you've definitely missed some good sessions. And the last thing I want to note is big industry conference coming up, the HR Tech Conference from Human Resource Executive Magazine, a frequent partner of ours on our studies. You see here that if you use the code I4CP, you can get $300 off an all access pass to the conference. This is the #1 HR conference for HR technology in the United States every year. It's held in Las Vegas. You see the dates there in the top right. We at I4CP are fortunate to have 2 sessions, a pre-conference workshop, and you see the topic for that in the bottom left, as well as a mega session on AI and HR. Our CEO, Kevin Oakes, and my fellow senior research analyst, Catherine Brecken, are going to be co-presenting those sessions at this conference. So again, use the code I4CP to get $300 off if you're interested in attending the HR Tech event. All right, without any further ado, I am going to introduce now our special guest for today. She is Debbie Shotwell, Chief People and Culture Officer at Stack Overflow. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Great to have you with us. I love the fact that your title is not just Chief People Officer or Chief Human Resource Officer, but Chief People and Culture Officer. I think that's putting the emphasis on the right thing, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your career journey in HR, and your role at Stack Overflow?
Yeah, thank you. I've been in the human resources, the people business for many years. I've had such a great journey. I feel very grateful for all the places that I've worked, and I think it's led me to Stack Overflow. I started my career when I was young and decided I wanted to be in HR. Most people don't do that. So I actually had a degree from Sacramento State with an emphasis in human resources, and went to work for a little chip company called Intel. That was my goal. I wanted to work for a Fortune 500 company when I graduated. So I worked for them. And then, as you can see, I'm really, really dedicated to the technology space and worked in technology companies. PeopleSoft, I had implemented it 4 times before I went to PeopleSoft and became an employee. So I was there through the Oracle acquisition, which was obviously a very challenging time, but also a very exciting time because it provided a lot of opportunity for us members of the human resources team to go and work for great companies afterwards. Taleo, another technology company that was purchased by Oracle, by the way. M&A is my thing. And I definitely grew there. I was the head of HR there during my tenure. Then I did a little stint in healthcare and went to Good Technology. Good Technology, a security-based company, was an amazing journey. And that's when I really became a chief people officer and really worked with the board very closely. Then I went to BigCommerce. BigCommerce, excellent company, a wonderful opportunity for me to work in a different space. Loved that company. It was based in Austin, Texas. And so I traveled quite a bit to Austin. And then I went to Saba Software, got an awesome opportunity to go into a company that was a learning management company, and we acquired Halogen and several other companies together. And during that time, worked to bring those companies together. And then we eventually sold to Cornerstone On Demand. And then I got the great opportunity to come to Stack Overflow. Feel very, very lucky to be here. It's a wonderful organization with a great culture, and I'm really excited to talk about the culture at Stack Overflow.
So it's ironic that we were plugging the discount code for the HR Tech conference and everything, because your career, I think more than any guest we've ever had, and we've had maybe close to 100 guests, maybe more, in this call series over the past 3 years, your career has really spanned across the HR Tech universe. I mean, names like PeopleSoft, Taleo, Saba, and then because of the merger and acquisition, aspects of that, Oracle, Cornerstone. You mentioned, I think, Halogen and others. I mean, that it's sort of a whirlwind tour of the biggest names in the HR tech space. I actually worked at Taleo for 1 year. That didn't come up when you and I met in our prep call. We might have been there at the same time. I'm not sure, but and I'll note too that these are companies that even through the M&A, many people at organizations still use PeopleSoft. If they haven't updated their core HR system, they still use Taleo or the latest version of that ATS through Oracle, and they may still use Saba, even though they're part of Cornerstone now as their LMS. So all excellent companies that have had a long standing in our industry.
Yeah.
But let's talk more about Stack Overflow. Let's learn more about that company. Give us a little bit of an overview, because it's not a household name the way some other companies are, like the one you started with, Intel. So tell us more about that company and then the culture.
Yeah, Stack Overflow is started as a membership company, founded in 2008. And really, it was a community-based company. It was a place for developers to meet, learn, and grow together, and really learn how to code. And it was a Q&A, question and answer site that really grew throughout its journey to over 100 million users a day. I mean, it's amazing the number of developers or people that I just meet on the street if I have a Stack Overflow sweatshirt on, and they say, "Do you work at Stack Overflow? You help me every day. Thank you so much." So our community is really important, and they're at the center of everything we do. And it's a diverse, geographically dispersed company. We're located all over the world, our employees are. And Stack Overflow now is for teams and branding, and we have ads. So for teams, we actually sell to big companies, small companies, SMB. So we really provide our product now because engineers really demanded it when they went to an organization. So they pretty much sold the product for us, because organizations will call and say, "Hey, we want Stack Overflow for teams." And it's an amazing product. And recently we just announced Stack Overflow AI. So it's Overflow AI that was announced last week in Berlin. So brand new product development that we will be piloting at the end of this month. So it's really
Exciting.
Really exciting. And then one of our core values is learn, share, grow. So I'll talk a little bit about our development process for our employees, and we believe in it significantly. So I think that's the real advantage we have as a company is our core values. We live and breathe them. We're transparent and we make things happen. We've doubled in size in the last 2 years, and Gen AI is going to be part of our framework moving forward.
Right.
So feel really lucky.
Yeah, it's exciting to be adding AI both to the product, and I'm sure using it internally as well. Tell us, you've walked through, I think, some of these aspects of the company. Anything else here that you want to walk through in terms of the last couple of years?
Well, in 2021, we actually were acquired by Process. So they're the major investor, and they're located in the Netherlands. They've been a great partner to us, and they help us and guide us along. I think one of the things that's a real plus for our organization is our diversity, equity, and inclusion program. We have a very well written, documented strategic plan, and our leadership team is very dedicated to that. And we've made huge progress over the last 12 months on that program. As we go into next year, we will be in our second phase. It's a 3-year plan, and we're on target. So we feel very fortunate that that's our approach. We are very data driven. So we run our organization on, KPIs and goals, and we report them to our managers and our employees on a monthly basis. So I think that makes an advantage for us as an employer and a great place to work. And we have an L&D strategy, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up.
Yeah, we'll dive into that here in just a moment. I like that you're both data driven, but that it's data driven with transparency, like you say, sharing the relevant data metrics with the employees on a monthly basis. You mentioned the values of the organization. Talk a little bit here about the vision and the four principles and how these sort of make up the overall culture.
Yeah, so we're really a valuable destination for our developers and any technologists to learn and share and grow. And our really Stack Overflow people team vision is to fuel Stack Overflow's vision growth by making it really a long-term career destination and a great place to work. And we put that in pillars. So every employee has a very clear path. And we use a career navigator. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But career development is easy. It's simple. We make it easy, simple. It's online. Everyone has an opportunity to learn, and it's seamless. It's collaborative with their manager and their employees. Everyone knows a path where they're going for the future. And that makes a difference for people in their career development and really understanding where they want to go. And we are communicating that on an ongoing basis. Diversity is in the center of everything we do in our HR programs. And then once again, transparency is the default, not the exception to the rule. I think one of the things that I find very special about the organization is the support that stackers, and we call our employees stackers, provide to each other. And they really do call each other up on the phone and say, or, reach out and say, I have some questions or concerns. Let's talk this out. And so it's a supportive and a very flexible organization to work for.
Nice. One of the things that you and I talked about when we prepped for the session today was, of course, the where of work and its role in your culture. I think for a lot of organizations prior to the pandemic, the office or offices made were rightly or wrongly a big aspect of what they thought the culture of the organization was. And then we all know what occurred 3 years ago. Your organization, you told me, has shifted to really 100% or close to it remote. So say more about that and what the impact that has had on the culture.
Yeah, one of the things that's unique about our culture is that we have what's called an annual meetup. Once a year, we get together for a week anywhere we choose. This past year, it was in Chicago in April. And that is called an annual meetup. We talk about our goals. We work on KPIs. We have learning events. We have team events. And I think it makes it special. Going remote wasn't an easy decision, but we were looking at what happened when we had the pandemic. 60% of our employees were already remote before the pandemic. So we were almost a 50-50 split. And then everyone was forced to work from their homes. And when we went back in late 2021, we didn't make it mandatory. Nothing was mandatory. Even the meetups aren't mandatory. People want to be together on an ongoing basis. But we opened our offices in London and New York, and we were only seeing 10 to 15 people a week every single day in the office. So we made that hard decision to say, okay, how do we keep the culture going and close the office so we save money to help us? And really, it's taken a lot of work on onboarding our employees and making a change, an effort where they get an opportunity to meet everyone. They meet directly with our CEO, and in the first couple of weeks, they start. I do something called a community tea with our stackers once a month. And I find out what's going well, what isn't going well, where can we improve? And we really, truly listen to our stackers and we make a difference because we want to be better. We're always wanting to process and improve. And that's part of our culture as well. But this decision to go remote, which by the way, it was July 31st, we closed all our offices,
Mm.
was difficult. At first we said, no, we're going to get new offices. Our leases were up. We looked and then we assessed and we talked to our employees about the decision before we made it. We listened to them. We also provide an opportunity for employees that cannot work from their homes in a real healthy way, an opportunity to go to a WeWork or another type of office that works better for them. And we do pay for that for our employees.
Nice. Yeah, that's important because not everyone is well set up to work from home or prefers that. Some people like to just have other people around them, even if they're not fellow stackers, if you will, like a WeWork type situation. Great that you listened to your employees. You didn't just make assumptions. Okay, yes, granted, very few people were choosing to come in, but who knows what the real reasons are. Maybe they would prefer to come in if it was more coordinated and they knew that their colleagues would all be in the office together. So, could have gone in that direction, but sounds like you listened to your employees that this is what ultimately they would prefer overall. So great to hear that. I think you also had told me that you even have a great deal of flexibility around work hours as well, the hours of the day. So it's not just the where, but also the when of work.
Yes. So the when of work and one of our values is flexibility. And we provide an opportunity for people to live a full life. And that means, taking care of their children, taking them to school, picking them up, taking care of family members, going to doctor's appointments. And our goal is to really have our employees be very, very attuned to what they need and talk to their managers and leaders and say, this is how and when I'll get the job done. And I'll actually get the job done because I'm committed to doing it. It might not be 8 to 5 that I'm doing work. So it's
that
not
requires a managerial approach and a performance management system that's very, whether it's KPIs or OKRs, whatever it may be, but it's outcome driven, goal driven, as opposed obviously to time and sort of butts and seats driven, if you will.
Yeah.
Great to see too, in addition to the flexibility around WeWork type situations or allowing, some payment for other office for those that don't want to work primarily from home. Also, the flexibility for those that are either new to Stack Overflow or early in career in general. That is a cohort that struggles with full remote. I think often they like hybrid, but they would prefer some time together with colleagues in an office. So I like the fact that you've redone your onboarding program. The meetings with the CEO, I think, is fairly unique. The meetings you described that you have on a regular basis with everyone or with various teams, I think all of that has no doubt served you well with that sort of, if you will, vulnerable group in a sense, who maybe benefit more than seasoned veterans who maybe are fine with remote.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. We're going to be introducing really hub events for volunteer programs in November. We're going to have a major event and it'll be across the world where everyone can get together in hubs and actually volunteer together because we know people like to connect.
Right. Great. Well, let's pivot then to learning and growth at Stack Overflow, your learning and development programs. You've got several things you'd like to share here, so take it away.
Yeah, I have a really, really awesome learning and development team. I want to recognize them. I think some of them are on the call, so thank you for all of your hard work. It was a really, really great opportunity for us to do an employee engagement survey, and we got really direct feedback in our first survey. It told us that we needed to spend more time and more money on our career paths and our learning journeys. And we listened once again. We really got feedback from our employees. We went to every single department and they said, we just don't feel like we have the tools that we need to be successful in the future. We did a real deep dive into that and we said, okay, how do we look at the future and where we wanted to go? We wanted to focus on skill-based development, which is so important today. We wanted to make sure we had very clear career paths and learning paths. And we wanted to make sure we had tools. And so we first stepped back and said, well, how can we do this? Well, we need an online university or a system. And so we implemented in September of last year at my academy, a university. It has all of these wonderful, wonderful courses in them and tools, and it's amazing. Our employees, 98% of our employees have logged on and are using these tools. And as part of it, we also listened again and said, okay, learning is so important. It's a core value, learn, share, and grow. We developed what we call our ability to, and here's my academy, you're showing my academy. They can rank their skills level. And then once the online system is available to them, courses will be delivered to them automatically. On a weekly basis, our employees get courses that are sent directly to them through my academy based on their skills assessments. Their managers can work with them on this, and they can agree to what types of courses they can take. Each employee actually has a development plan, and each employee also has money that's dedicated to them so they can actually go out and learn in a development outside of this program as well. So
that's great. That's great that you didn't just have a if you build it they will come approach, because oftentimes utilization rates, even when you've got such a broad, I mean, that was an impressive array of third-party vendors, a lot of learning content available, but oftentimes utilization of that self-paced material largely is pretty low if you don't then match up people's skills, push out things that are recommended, and also give them time. Whenever we do a survey on what are the challenges, what are the failings of your L&D tech ecosystem, if you will, the number one reason, the number one barrier or challenge to learning has nothing to do with the tech, has nothing to do with the content. It is lack of time for employees to dedicate to learning. But if you're providing nudges, I assume you're also encouraging through managers and directly them to spend time on their own learning and growth.
Yeah, so we listened again. Our employees did say time is an issue, and that's where we came up with Learn, Share, Grow Days. So we actually provide our employees every single month a Friday afternoon where they're either working on self-directed learning or a department team learning and a company sponsored learning event. And so like today at 9 o'clock, I have a team Learn, Share, Grow Day, and we're working together as a team on our Learn, Share, Grow Day. And last month, our company-wide day was about everything AI and what our products are going to look like and how our employees can utilize them. And it was very well received. It was wonderful for us to do this. The commitment here is really important, that the organization, even in times when it becomes difficult, we're not going to be taking this away because it's so important to our employees. And what we're seeing is that our employees are learning and they're growing and they're developing, and 15 to 20% of our employees are being promoted because of all the skills development that they're learning and they're growing with.
Nice. That's a nice result. And I like here under bullet number 2, the sub bullets, that it's a nice range, as you said, of self-directed learning, team department driven learning, like the example you gave for your team later today, but then also the company-wide events when there's something that just really everyone needs to get up to speed on, like AI. For example, we did have a question that arose here in the chat from Sadie. What tools or framework or process do you all use at Stack Overflow to hold associates and managers as sort of accountable for their development plans? Like how do you stay on top of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. We use Culture Amp. So we set our overall company goals through Culture Amp, and every single employee sets goals, and managers work with their employees to set their development goals and hold them accountable. And it's part of their performance review process.
Very good. Yeah, I put the name of that one, Culture Amp. That's a pretty well-known vendor in the HR space, but not everyone maybe has heard of that. So I just added that name over in the chat. So thank you for sharing on that. I think you also have some of the results from all of this, the maybe the learn, share, grow, or maybe all of your L&D efforts more broadly. Walk us through some of these metrics.
Yeah, this is the most amazing story. And I have not seen scores like this, and I've been doing engagement surveys for a long time. But our overall growth of the company was double in size in the 1 year. So 50% headcount growth, which is pretty amazing. But our scores went up 4 points, our overall engagement score. And the most amazing part is the learning and development score, which was totally separate, also went up 7%. So we've saw some amazing results, and part of the results and the reasons why is because of the Learn, Share, Grow days, but how we listen to our employees and how they appreciate that we're transparent on the good, bad, and ugly. That's what, I say is just be truthful, tell people what's going on, even when the economic downturn happened and our company has been impacted just like many other companies. You have to be honest with your employees, and you just have to tell them the truth. And so I think because we are offering so much for our employees in a way of great healthcare benefits, we pay 100% healthcare benefits to our employees. We also dedicate time, flexibility. Every single employee has an opportunity to express what their concerns are or what they would like to see different in the company. And this flexibility piece is super important, and encouraging employees to rise to the occasion and to do something special. We want our employees to feel like they're delivering great results, and we give our employees that opportunity.
Between the transparency that we've talked about, the engagement increase scores here, the fact that you listened, it sounds like maybe a few years ago, to what was missing, and they said the number one thing was career journeys, career development, and then you took action on that. That's always the failing of doing a lot of employee surveys and listening, is if you don't then follow up with action, then people get survey fatigue, and it actually can be a negative to do all that so-called listening. The one figure I'm not seeing here shared is impact on your retention or attrition numbers. I assume that those have at least held steady or even improved along with these others.
Yeah, 2 years ago when I started at Stack Overflow, it's 2.5 years ago now, the turnover was very high. It was over 30%. Our turnover is well underneath 20%. So I think last year we ended at 18%. So
nice. So significant move in the right direction. That's great.
Correct.
Well, when we prepped for this call, Debbie, we had talked through a lot of topics. We've talked about culture, your move very recently to full remote work, your learning and development with the Learn, Share, Grow plans, but there's several other topics we wanted to hit on. You mentioned diversity, equity, inclusion being one of the key things at Stack Overflow earlier, central to all that you do, not just sort of a bolt-on. Can you say a little bit more your approach there, maybe some things you've focused on? I know we had talked about for being a relatively smaller company, the number of ERGs you have. So whatever you'd like to share in this area.
Yeah, I believe that your employees drive your diversity inclusion programs and your leadership. And our CEO, Prashant, has been very, very integral in helping us with the development of our program. Our head of diversity is extremely dedicated and has made a huge difference. She started about 2 years ago in the organization and helped us put together a great program, which includes very clear metrics and communicating with our employees. And our ERGs have grown, and the one ERG that's a little different that we started last year, and we couldn't be more proud of this ERG, is our allyship ERG. So we have over 150 members, and this ERG has been really, really helpful in regards to all our programs. Our hiring and our developing our people quickly is a lot to do with our ERGs. They will help us with referrals. So many of our hires this past year have been based on referrals from our ERGs. And they put together monthly programs, quarterly programs, and anyone can attend these programs, and they're very well received. We actually have guest speakers. We actually have our own employees who represent a group or a topic, and they speak. We actually have, I think some people are on this call, individuals that facilitate meetings like you're doing with our employees to talk about diversity and inclusion. So it's really excellent to see.
So we've got
Yeah, go ahead.
a question here from Lil about that allyship ERG. I think that's fairly unique. Wondering what happens in that particular ERG. Say more about that one.
Yeah, so we have Slack channels for all our ERGs. We have Slack channels for everything in the company, even, a pet Slack channel. So, but one of our most amazing one is our allyship. So topics are brought up on the Slack channel, and they talk. They actually have meetings, and they actually put together, and I talked about a meetup that we have once a year. Our ERGs actually sponsor an event at our meetup, and they actually have guest speakers, or they have speakers who are doing learning events for individuals. But if there's a topic that needs to be raised, it's raised on a Slack channel, and people will answer and respond. And it's really healthy that our ERGs are extremely motivated to help one another and each other in groups.
Couple of other questions here, hot topic, I guess. Do you incentivize, this is from Jamie in the chat, do you incentivize your ERG leaders? And I'm glad, Jamie, that you mentioned ERG leadership. We did a study several years ago that found that ERG, BRG, whatever you might call them at your organization, leaders, that's a great pool for succession planning, for leadership development. It's a great opportunity for folks to gain some leadership skills and then move up in the organization or take on different roles. So curious about both incentivizing leaders of ERGs, that's Jamie's question, but also if you've been looking to ERG leaders in any other way.
Yeah, so we talked about incentivizing and providing a, once a year stipend. And it's interesting, the ERG leaders at the time didn't really embrace that. They said, this is something we think is super important. We don't believe you need to actually incentivize us to do it, which surprised me because I thought incentivizing would have been a great idea.
Right.
So we listened. We didn't do that. But one of the things I think is unique about our groups is that they're super dedicated to helping the organization. You talk about learning and development and leadership opportunities. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for an opportunity to actually learn. And I'll just give me as an example, I'm a female and I want to know how I can grow in my career. in this ERG, are you going to have special opportunities, learning events for me so I can be a better leader in the future? And yes, we do provide leadership opportunities and learning opportunities for our ERG specifically based on what they're looking for.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's interesting that that's what they asked for and didn't ask for. I think both the words incentives, ahead of time, and recognition sort of after the fact, people often automatically, understandably, go to financial or maybe carving out time in one's day to support that or something, but it doesn't need to be that. A lot of times the best incentives and the best recognition are things like being mentioned at a high profile meeting or learning opportunities, career growth opportunities. So it doesn't always need to be something, particularly in difficult financial times, people are more understanding. It doesn't always need to be a financial incentive or a financial recognition for these things. Got another question here on DE&I from Tina. Thank you, Tina. She said it was great to see DE&I so prominent in your strategic priorities. How were you able to elevate that work so that it wasn't just seen as a program or programming, but was more a part of your strategic vision?
Well, I think it always starts with leadership. And so, I have a diverse CEO, and we have a very diverse team, a leadership team. And they're so supportive of, making sure that diversity is, in the center of the organization. But I also have to give a lot of credit to the founder, Joel, of Stack Overflow. He was really supportive of diversity. And so diversity has really been part of the core competency of the company early on. And it's a tradition and it's important. I think, every single person makes a difference, and every single person has an opportunity for growth, and our leaders believe it, and they're dedicated to providing opportunities for everyone. And we want to make a difference in everyone's lives at Stack Overflow. And we want it to be a great place to work. And one of the ways to do it is to be committed to do it. The very first year I was there, our CEO said, we're committed to a dollar amount and a leader for this. And it's in our core, and we talk about it in our meetings. And it's one of our measurements, KPIs, that we measure on a quarterly basis because it's that important.
All right, one more question on this, and I want to move on and talk a little bit about AI. But Jim had just a clarification question on the allyship ERG, because again, that's not something that I think most of us have heard companies doing. Is that when you would join because you don't fit the profile or for the other affinity-based ERG groups? Can anyone join any ERG? Or if you're a male and are interested in supporting, say, female leaders, would you instead join the allyship one, but not the women's group?
Anyone can join any group in our organization. So, if you're a male and you want to be part of Moxie, it isn't a female group, it's called Moxie, you can join. So anyone can join. The allyship really is a group that wants to support anyone and everyone. And it's, like I said, it's 150 people. It's the largest ERG we have.
Yeah, and for an organization with less than 1,000 employees, right, 150 in one ERG is really impressive. I mean, it does span across interest in various affinity groups and supporting all of the ERGs. So I guess in that sense, it's not too surprising, but it's great that the energy is there around allyship at your organization. That's wonderful.
Yes, it's amazing.
Very impressive. Well, that's certainly a big takeaway from the call today, because I haven't heard of a broad allyship ERG at too many other companies. Let's pivot. We've got about 15 minutes left. I want to drill in a little bit on AI. You mentioned earlier AI becoming a part of the Stack Overflow solution set for your customers, but let's focus here instead on where are you looking to use AI within HR? When you and I prepped for today, you had mentioned a few use cases and things that you're either already using or exploring using. So both sort of traditional AI, machine learning, or more generative AI. What's the story there for AI and HR?
Yeah, I would say, our learning and development group, AI is embedded in everything in our My Academy. So when somebody, fills out their assessment, which we talked about, and they start building their career paths and navigators in their system, they actually get things sent directly to them based on their criteria. So that's an AI based system, which is, probably not all that unique, but it's actually something that we have been using, which I feel really, really lucky that we've had, because I think it makes a difference. The other thing is, talent acquisition is a core component of a people function. Finding the right talent, making sure that you really understand the core competencies and understanding what that profile is important. We use Seek Out as one of our major contributors. Paradox is a bot-based system that correlates with our candidates. We actually have somebody that's actually their vendor names. Yes, their vendor names for sure. But they really help us in helping the candidate experience. So it's important when somebody's interviewing for a job that they really get as much information as possible before they go into the interview process. That's how we use Paradox. Seek Out as we clone our high performer individuals. And when I say clone, we actually take a background and a skill set that we know somebody's been really successful, and then we go and we try to find individuals with that profile to try to find out if they're going to be good candidates for us to talk to as we're looking for new people to come into the organization. Been very successful in the customer success management area using the cloning feature, and also in our US-based account executives. So we utilize that software to help us there. We also have been really experimenting as we're building new policies and procedures in the company using ChatGPT or a form of that AI to give us a baseline policy or procedure to start. We have policies and procedures in place, as most companies do, as most of us have worked on them. Normally, you have to start with a blank sheet of paper, so it's really, really nice that we have a little tool that can help us get us a little jump start when we're making changes, or we're modifying, or if we're writing a new policy we never had before.
Right. Great to see that you're already jumping on the generative AI bandwagon, even if it's just early steps. Our recent study showed that few organizations, I think it was less than 20%, are yet doing that. Also, you mentioned learning recommendations through AI support is more common, but our research says it's still less than 50% of organizations that have an LMS or an LXP that can pull that off. So good to hear that you're in the ahead of the curve on that, if you will. I want to combine this topic with the previous one, diversity and equity and inclusion, if we could, specifically around the Seek Out tool. I assume either the Seek Out tool does this itself to some degree, or maybe you've added some steps to your process to make sure that when you're looking for the clones of people based on skills, that you're not hurting yourself, shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to diversifying the workforce, because that could be something that could easily, find if it's literally a clone, if it, you could lead yourself to just having more of the same type of folks from a diversity angle.
Yeah, we're really, really careful about taking a look at a diverse slate. So as we're presenting candidates to our managers who have open positions, we provide a diverse slate for all of our positions, particularly our senior level positions. We're very, very careful to make sure that we provide very, very diverse candidates to our managers to make sure that we're living and breathing what we say we're going to do in our strategic plan.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've learned as I've dove in deeply into various workforce readiness topics, things like skills taxonomies, skills databases, things like that, is if you focus more on skills and capability and less on the proxies for those things like, to some degree, experience, certainly things like degrees. If you focus more on skills and capability, that in and of itself will help to some extent with the diversity concerns.
For sure.
All right, let's stick with HR technology. We've got about 6-7 minutes left. I'm curious, what else besides AI, what else are you doing? Any changes the rest of this year going into 2024 that you've maybe set aside budget for? What are you looking to do in terms of your HR tech stack?
Yeah, we're super excited. We are going to be actually adding an analytics tool, Kinetics. So that is software, so everyone knows. And that's going to help us with our KPIs and our monthly, quarterly goals, and making sure that we can measure them accurately and quickly versus a very manual approach on the back end. It's going to take, our data from our ATS and our HRIS, and it's going to provide us with those reports so we can measure our success and we can report out to our employees and our managers. Everything around diversity goals and also HR stats, performance management goals. We do have performance management goals. We have set expectations that X amount of employees will set goals, will have performance reviews. We have ongoing performance reviews. We are in the mid-year cycle at this point in time, where everybody gets a check-in and we see how people are doing on their goals that have been set.
It sounds like that answered maybe the question that Cecilia had here in the chat, that will this new tool also be helping you to measure the effectiveness of your overall people strategies? It sounds like you're going to be investing in this new people analytics tool, should help in that regard overall, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. One question that I like to ask our guests, if we have time, and we've got a few minutes left here today, so I'll lob it your way, which is, what do you look for HR professionals to join your team? What are some of the key things, besides maybe the obvious things like some background in HR, some skills with obvious, matching at least some of the job description bullet points? Anything that comes to mind that you particularly call out when you're interviewing folks to join your HR team?
Yeah, it's the passion. It's, you want to be part of a team that's going to make a difference. And attitude. I think attitude is half the battle in most opportunities, that you come with, a clear picture of what you'd like to do and accomplish and how you'd like to work collaboratively with others. That's a core value for us, is collaboration, and bringing, it might not be the smartest person in the room that's a culture fit. It's the person who fits in, who's going to make a difference and is a good team player. I think there's questions in the chat.
Yeah, we had another one that came up on the previous topic. You were talking about your performance management review process and also the impact that this new people analytics tool will have there. Tina asked, do you include your company values and expected behaviors in the performance reviews? And if so, how do you balance that aspect of the PR process with just the overall goals of each person's role?
Yeah, so the values, yes, there's a values component. You're living and breathing the values within the company. And then there's the goals and how you accomplish them. We also have, obviously have financial goals as a component as part of a bonus program, which is separate from the performance management system. But if everyone individually is meeting their goals, and they're also, meeting the core values of the company, they're going to do well in the organization. Even when the company financially might not be doing as well from a number perspective, but our employees are accomplishing what they need to do, which also gives them a growth opportunity and helps them with, hey, the company might not be doing as well, but I personally am getting some rewards and recognition, and I'm getting an opportunity to make a difference in the company. So that's important to people.
Yeah, that's very important, because a lot of times there's, external exogenous market factors, if you will, that drive whether or not a company's doing well overall, that, the individual employee in a lot of cases, particularly non-sales roles, engineers, really can have little impact on. So it's great from a motivation and expectations perspective to balance those things out. Well, Debbie, we're at the end of our hour. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate you walking through everything we had planned to discuss, plus taking some questions from the chat. You've been an outstanding guest, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom, for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Just a reminder for folks, these calls each week are available for recertification credit hours. So if you have an HRCI or a SHRM HR cert and you need recertification credit hours, just jot down the relevant program ID or activity ID, as the case may be, here on the screen. And also a final reminder, we as a company, I mentioned earlier, the HR Tech Conference that's coming up this fall, where we'll have both a pre-conference session and a mega session, but we also host our own conference, the I4CP Next Practices Now Conference. That'll be coming up again, as it always is, in March of 2024. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona. We get around 500 high-level HR leaders together. We don't have an expo, so there is no vendors hitting you up in the hallways for anything. It's just your peers talking about best and next practices. If you'd like to learn more about that, we're going to be revealing very soon some of the speakers for that conference. So just go to i4cp.com/conference, and you can learn all about it there. Once again, thanks everyone for joining today and participating. Thanks again, Debbie, for being an outstanding guest. Thank you, Zeta, for all of your support with links in the chat and setting this all up. Hope to see everyone again next week when we'll have another outstanding program. Have a great week, everyone.